Today we have Chris from Austria. He is one of my best friends on Twitter. He made a lot of memes in the past, and now we are here talking in front of each other. Thank you so much, Steve, for that one. We'll talk about socials, content creations. He has just started a YouTube channel. He has made a video about Docker, so that attracted me so much. So this is why he is here now. How are you, Chris?
Thank you, Francesco. I'm doing perfect. I'm so honored to be here. I'm having a great day now.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. So I really wanted to talk with you, to know you a little bit better. Let's start from the beginning, from development. How many years ago did you get started with that, and what are you doing now?
All right. So my story is...
We have 1 hour, so okay. So yes.
Okay. I'll skip over part of things, but basically, my journey started when I was 14 years old, I think. So I got my first PC. It was not even a Pentium back then, and immediately I got hooked. So I understood that this is something that I would like to do. It was the most interesting thing in my life. And I can remember when a friend of mine brought me the floppy disks. So I started copying disks. This was the first thing that I was doing. And obviously there were some games there. And one of the games I can remember still was Lotus. It was a 8-bit car race. The music was so good.
Yeah,
and I love it. Do you remember Norton Commander?
Yeah.
This was a file manager. And one of the things that I did within a few days, I think, of having the computer was trying to open the Lotus exe file and see how the graphics are done there. So where are the pictures? Where's the car? Where are the trees? Where's the street? Exactly. I wanted to understand how games are done. And this got me really hooked. So I went to the library and got my first programming book. It was for QBasic. Yeah, and this was my first moves into programming. And I learned how to do lottery games and things like that, but everything in text-based, so games were far away, graphics and so on. This was as well the decision why I went into a programming school. I didn't learn programming there because I learned it already before. And then it took a couple of years before I actually got into programming because I was doing it, I was reading books, back then, it wasn't so much on the internet that you would find on programming tutorials. Nowadays, you get everything for free even. But back then, you had to go to libraries, you had to buy books, you had to borrow books.
I've been there. I don't know how old are you? And maybe it's strange for people that maybe are younger than us to think that we were studying on books.
Just to give context, I'm 41 right now, so I'm pretty old.
Wow. Yeah, you look great. For me, you're like 25.
Thank you.
I don't know. You look way young. I'm 37, but you look younger than me. You look great.
It's only the light. It's the light.
I wanted the light too, so now.
But still, it took me years before I got into really programming because it was just a hobby, reading here and there, going into learning C, C++, even Java, and then later PHP and so on. And I had different jobs after school, did different things, nothing with programming at all, partially support, partially sysadmin things and so on. And at some point in one of the jobs, I had an opportunity to start doing something with programming. Back then with Java. And I started from there, basically, my programming career, where I moved through different languages and basically ended up, I think, like almost 7 years ago, I ended up with Node.js. And since then, it's my love, everything JavaScript, React, Node.js, and so on. It's what I do.
I had the honor to have here one of the Node.js maintainers, which is also Italian, Matteo Collina, which is he maintains the code of Node. I can't even imagine how many pull requests he needs to handle every day.
This technology is amazing. I can remember. I mean, those times back then, even in web development, where web pages were really simple. HTML was super simple. Yeah. And there was this time where people were afraid of JavaScript, right? So they turned off JavaScript in the browser just to be sure. So this is what times we left behind. And now everything runs on JavaScript. Even IoT is in JavaScript. Postgres, you can run PLV8 in Postgres, things like that. It's
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah. I think that maybe I can also remember one of the tweets of Microsoft, which is like, "We love JavaScript." Something could be maybe impossible some years ago, but yeah, that's it. Yeah, finally JavaScript is taking over. Yeah, but yeah, let's see. Let's see.
The good thing about JavaScript is that you can do a lot of things. You can be in the front end, in the back end, and use just one language, which helps you. I mean, it's good to know more languages, and it's easy once you have a language to learn another language, but it's quite helpful because your context switch is not that hard between React and Node, or Vue and Node is not as hard as between Java and JavaScript, for example.
Yeah. For example, it's good. For example, to be a full, what we can call nowadays a full stack developer, 20 years ago was really impossible. Maybe you need to be, I don't know, maybe it was really, really hard to do everything alone. Maybe now it's a bit easier.
So back then, there was not full stack development, but it actually happened by just, you pushed HTML from the server side. So PHP, I mean, we did a lot of crazy things back then. So things changed a lot. One of the videos that I just did on YouTube was about Docker. So Docker is something that I met in 2014, I think. Nice. And this was an absolute game changer for programming. And I'm still surprised that many people don't understand why it's so important to use it. And it's still, I see a lot of mistakes how people use Docker. I mean, I was there from the beginning, more or less, and I saw there were different ways to go about it. So one of the examples that I saw is, for example, you have a Docker container for, let's say, Node.js. You run it on your server. You have it there. You pull the image. And then you have your software you pull from GitHub, and you mount it in, right? And this is something that's a problem, for example, because every time you have a change in your software, you have to pull again, and so on and so on. And you can't read track history. But what I understood quite well within the few years before was that immutable infrastructure is something that you need to have in place. And immutable infrastructure is, for those who don't know it, it's creating your Docker container in a way that has everything there. The software, your software has to be part of the container already.
This is why containerization exists, basically. Yeah, you should be used in the right way. Yeah.
And I think this is not communicated the right way. And that's why people still use a ready-made language container and mount the software into it, which brings a lot of trouble because you have to move the software with you to the next host, instead of having a ready-made container that has everything there, which is a built version of your software. And the good thing is about having an immutable infrastructure is that you have a version that you can jump to, right? You can always jump back 7 versions and run the software from back then, or move forward and so on. And this is something where I think we need to communicate and teach people more how to use Docker in the right way. I think there's still a lot of information missing. And if I go into Kubernetes and so on, then completely different field again, right?
These are also, even more advanced concepts, but I think that we are still in the migration process. We are still not done with containerization. And of course, I always say, because sometimes I got some comments like, maybe you can use Podman, Rancher, something else. But in my opinion, the important thing is to understand the containerization. To get started, it's better to get started with something that people use, because basically when you have a problem, what you do is to Google that, you go on forums. If there is a big community, you are more likely to find a solution. This is what I think, not about just don't use you should be special in other ways. Maybe that's not a good way to be special. Then if you are an expert, you can use whenever you want, of course. If you are an expert.
But as you said, you need to Google things. You need to find out what others are doing, because most of the time somebody or hundreds of other people went to the same problem already as you did. And this is the funny thing. What we not joke about, what we write all the time is that even though I'm a programmer for many years, I still Google things. It's a normal thing. I believe that many newbies or junior developers believe that we know everything. We don't have to look up anything, and everything is in place. But it's not true, because problems are getting more complex, and we are working still as a huge community together. In the end, if you look at GitHub, which is open source, you have to look at Google and all the resources that you find there with all the knowledge. Is that we are a huge community that is bringing knowledge together. It's spread out in different places, from Stackshare to GitHub to some pages, but in the end, we are creating content this way with questions and answers, and this is how we help each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, for example, Docker, it started as an open source project. I don't know if you know a little bit the story, and then it explodes. The company that changed the name. So yes. This is how it worked. Yeah, it was 2013 or something like that.
I can remember even the Wild West of Docker in the beginning, like. There were hundreds of ways to go about it, and there were different technologies there, like etcd, CoreOS was there, Rocket, and so on. Flannel. They were just to. I can remember I had the project where I had to go multi-host, right? So I had to have something like Docker communication in between hosts, and there were like 5-6 different ways how to go about how to create a network. And Docker itself, from them, there was nothing really in place yet, right? So everybody was looking at Docker. What should we do? But there were a lot of small companies bringing their own projects and trying to solve this problem. And I think now the field gets more and more stabilized. If you think about really huge deployments, the only way to go is, I think, Kubernetes nowadays. I don't think there's any major player anymore. And it's a good thing that there's something that you can look into in one direction, and that Google is behind it. So this is quite helpful as well, because it won't be gone next week. Even though you have to be careful with Google, because Google has a graveyard of dead projects.
They also make fun about this, and I think they have some pages somewhere when there's a Google Plus something else. But I heard that maybe Google had something like Kubernetes 20 years ago when they get started. They had this own private. Maybe it was not like that, and then they outsourced. Now they are outsourcing this. I don't know if this is the truth, but I think if they had Kubernetes 20 years ago, that was a kind of good advantage against the competitors. Maybe, yeah.
I mean, I think they would be too early to the market, so nobody would care maybe. And the other thing is, if you think about it, the term cloud computing happened way later, after Google was actually doing it all the time. I mean, the Google infrastructure was already years ago that perfectly standardized that they didn't really need many people to maintain huge data centers, right? So they were in the game for a long time already. Now Amazon and so on are there as well, and Microsoft and so on. But I think they have a lot of knowledge they brought into Kubernetes and so on.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah. Let's talk for some minutes about your YouTube channel, because you are just getting started, let's say that, but I already see a lot of potential in that. I think you will be a big player in this in this year. I'm sure about that. So what do you think about what has been your experience as I don't know, people call us YouTubers, I don't know, but we are just making videos for now.
I guess. So first of all, let me say, it's your fault that I started YouTube.
Wow.
So you motivated me. I was just, because we are similar in this way. We are programmers for quite some time, and socials were always a strange kid to us, right? So everybody's doing this. The young kids are doing social networking.
Yeah, we are older than socials, so socials came after us.
So the point is with YouTube is I have an account for 10 years. I don't know how long. I just recently saw it when I uploaded my first video, and it was a huge challenge for me to leave my comfort zone to people are doing amazing job there. They're doing great videos, and it looks so professional and so on. And imposter syndrome kicked in hardcore. So even though I know I have the knowledge to tell people what to do, and this is part of my job because I have teams around me, and I tell people what to do and how to do it and teach them things and so on. I'm still learning as well on the other end, but I was just too nervous about doing it, and I had to force myself into promising openly that I would do at least 3 videos before the end of the year. And if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have done a single video. And now I'm happy that I did.
I usually gave always honest opinions. I can also repeat this after we turn off the camera, but from my point of view, your videos are great. Great lighting, great audio, great content, because we can also maybe don't have the last microphone, the best lighting, but in my opinion you are really providing value as a content. So this is the most important thing, and you have also good lighting and microphone, but that's the most important thing. People are looking for that, and they look on YouTube or internet. And also thank you, because I know how much time it takes to make a good-looking video, to try to explain things in the right way, to be sure about what you communicate to people. So yeah,
absolutely. I completely underestimated it, but very much thank you again. I just want to say about the lighting and so on and micro and so on, is that I did it, even though everybody will tell you that this is not important. If you get started, just get started, and with time you can improve. But for me, maybe I'm different about it, but I just wanted to get the technical stuff out of the way so I can have more confidence doing it, right? So for me, it was just, if the video looks better, then at least nobody would look at this and complain about it, but at least I can focus on the content. So this is why I did it that way. Maybe it's not the best approach, but I think I needed this in my part.
I usually say that you don't need that, but I'm not saying that that's not good. So it's different. You don't need that. I say this because I know a lot of people that they don't have a lot of money. So, but they would like to get started with that. I talk with so many people. We have this problem. So in this case, there's nothing wrong with that. But in your case, I think it's good if you manage to create good-looking videos from the first one. Because videos are intended to stay on your channel for forever, basically. And so that's great. Yeah,
I was lucky. I had a DSLR that is almost 10, not 10 years, but 8 years old for sure. So I had it, so I just used it.
I also had one, but I don't know, when I try to record I don't use that as a webcam because it has a strange resolution. I don't know, maybe it could be fixed.
Mine too. It has a horrible resolution. It's not even HD. It's 900 something by 600 something, because back then they used to do live feed like that, but it's still okay. I cut off the rest.
No, it's great. It's great. It's great. Yeah.
What I wanted to say just about recording YouTube videos, that I have huge respect to you and everybody else doing YouTube videos. It's massive work, and I believe it will take quite some time before I will be efficient that I can do a lot of videos. Right now, it's recording over and over again, trying to get the wording right, cutting out stuff and editing and so on. It's a lot of work. So huge respect to the YouTube community.
Yeah, so maybe you need to watch the video that I'll publish tomorrow. I'm not saying in this video who will be, but you need to watch the video tomorrow, because I'll talk with my guest exactly about this topic, about tries, making videos at the first try. So I'll talk about that with my guest, which should be the last one. So this will be interesting. But for example, this helped me a lot, because and of course you always need some time to think about the topics, to get things done. But I think that we can reduce the time of recording. So maybe the time of editing, maybe it will always be long, even if you are a super expert. My idea is to try to reduce the time, the tries of recording. So this can really be a time saver. Maybe you can use that time to edit more, to polish, maybe add something. But I have, for example, this goal for this year to reduce the time. So when I want to record one thing, I want to try 1, 2 times, 3 times at max, but 3 times are already a lot. Maybe you need to think about that. And we need practice. For example, I'm also practicing to do some live streams when I use Docker. I don't know if you want to do something with that, for example. That would be great if you want. And for example, when you do that thing live stream, of course, it doesn't have to be perfect, but for example, you need to explain line by line. For example, I remember when I started to create some Docker file, even if it's something that I do every day, you need to stop, explain line by line about why each command. There are people in chat that discuss why are you doing this instead of this. So you really need to have a super deep understanding, and it's funny. But it's funny because you understand that doing something and teach something, it's totally different. As you said, maybe we have worked with that for many years, but we need to work on the content creation part, so teaching part, explain. But it's funny, and in my opinion, it's also fun. It's also good to help people who maybe are there.
This is an interesting topic. I mean, helping others, because this was my belief as well, that everybody is doing already YouTube videos and tutorials and courses and so on. So what value can I bring? Because everything was covered like 100 times, but still, every time you watch somebody, there's a different perspective on things. So there is no end to that. So there's always some help that you can provide. There could be one sentence in half an hour that will change a programmer's life, and maybe you're the one that will bring this value. So this is what changed my mind about doing all those things.
I like this, and this is why I always say that we are not really competitors. For example, if we talk about the same topic, I think the opposite. Maybe we can collaborate on something, grow together, do something together. There's not. We are not. I don't know. We are not selling. We're not selling smartphones. We are just sharing our knowledge. We are not competitors in this case. Yeah.
So in one situation, we will supplement with information, right? So you will extend the value, and in some cases we'll have the same information, which will just enforce the knowledge again. So it's in both cases it's good, right? So the developers on the other hand, that the other side that are learning, will have more value out of it. So this is great.
And this is also why I always say that you should always create content on something that you really like. You should not just create content for the sake of creating content, because if you create content that it's useful for you, and I'm sure that you and also I've been there. I will go check my content. Maybe in some months you need to check something about that. It's a very funny moment when you say you see your own videos, your own blog articles. It happened to me.
I'm waiting for this moment. Right now, I'm just fresh in the YouTube channel, but I'm sure I will have a good laugh in a year when I look at my first videos.
Yeah. That's another story. You can even make a reaction, but that's good. But and we obviously, for example, we always have this this perception of ourselves that is always wrong. We are never good. We're always that. I never liked even my recent videos. I really don't like them, but I don't know. People have other perception of this. So what about, for example, what about your plans now for YouTube? Because I'm really interested to know about something else.
So for YouTube, I put down a Trello list with all the content that I would like to talk about. So whenever I have an idea, I just open Trello and put the idea there. Nice. So I remember what I will do in the future. And the point is, the only issue that I have is right now that there are so many things that I would like to talk about. It's from Docker, Kubernetes, Node.js, React, and so on and so on. There are a lot of technologies that I would like to cover, and this is, I think, a bad thing somehow. So I should maybe focus on one direction. I'm not sure, so I'm still trying to figure out in which direction I should go. But my plans are to do more, of course.
And for example, in these are similar because, for example, I've not done so many technical videos, some of them, but I'm still like you. I think we are like I don't know, like kids entering in a toy store. We are watching something. We have so many opportunities. We have so many ideas that we can't choose one, for example. In my opinion, the DevOps part is really wonderful. But I don't know. I don't know if you would like to create different videos on different topics, starting from the basics.
I guess I will, at least for the beginning, I will touch on different topics for sure, and just trying to figure out what my niche is. So right now I'm not sticking to Docker. I'm not sticking to React, not because there are even things that are non-technical that I would like to talk about. What it's like to be a tech lead or CTO, things like that. What it means to find people and that work for your team. And there are a lot of things that you could talk about, and I'm still not sure which things will be more interesting or less interesting to people.
Yeah. For example, I know that if you stick to a topic, you start getting people following you for that topic. YouTube should be your journey, your story. So I've also published video on different topics. So try to figure this out, and then you'll choose. You can make series. You can choose a day, for example. I don't know.
You can always do playlists later on, but I think it's a healthy view on things. Just not to do it for others, but just do it for yourself. And I kind of feel like YouTube is, for me, not only YouTube but as well Twitter, is something like events to like. There's so much knowledge that built up over time, and there's a pressure in me, and I just want to get it out. I want to share it with somebody, right? So because over the last 20 years I was just getting knowledge from everybody, and now it's long overdue to share this, right? And this is feeling that I have, that when I publish this, it's first of all to satisfy this urge, and if it's helpful to somebody, great, perfect. I'm happy.
But Chris, you can be really helpful for this community if you find time, because I know that it requires a lot of time to do that. This can really be useful for someone else. So stay strong. Maybe you give it a try. For example, for this year, I want to focus on YouTube, and then I'll try to do that. I don't know which is if you have a goal for your videos in this year or in the future. But there are so many people who really need help. They really need help because, it's not that easy to understand from the beginning, for example, as you said. And DevOps it's even worse. But I think we can be useful in some ways. I'm pretty sure about that.
We bring experience to the game, and if there's a lot of time the situation where I speak to junior developers and they're stuck with a problem, or they're solving something in a specific way, and they don't have the whole history from where we came and why we're doing things like that. So it's, for example, if you have somebody developing a React application with JSX, and you have to explain, well, we used a similar thing with PHP when we rendered websites. It was as well because they say this is code and display mixed together, but yes, we moved history change, we did this and that and another thing, and a lot of issues that we have solved over time, they lack the knowledge, and you can bring this, like I tried to explain in Docker why Docker is so important, what we did before, and now everybody gets it right and can use it immediately, but they don't understand why it is so important that we had to make those moves.
I invited you also to ask you if you want to do some even little collaboration on Docker during this year. Okay. Perfect. That will be amazing. I think. I'll check the point. I'll check the point when you said yes. So this will be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I'd love it. I mean, I'm so in love with socials now ever since I started, because before that it was crazy, but now the for collaboration and sharing with like-minded people, knowledge and so on, it's amazing. I just love it. It's so much fun.
It's great. It's great, and also Node.js. Is I think my favorite technology. So I think we are on the same boat in this world. So this will be really it will be really amazing to do something together. I have something in my mind, but I'm still working on that idea. So Chris, this has been really great. For example, I have another question. Have you ever planned to do, for example, a live stream of you, just for example, I don't know, to do something really basic? Would you like to do this together or no? I don't know.
I was thinking about live streams, but it would be way more comfortable for me to do it with somebody together. So I think Stefan Nader is doing this already. So I would love to do it with you as well.
Yeah, I'm live coding with Stefan Natter. I don't know if you have noticed that. Yeah, you have been there. Yeah, and of course we are using Docker. We have used Docker already. Even with the DB, I solved a bug during a live stream. It's really a good sensation when you solve a bug with people watching you in the live stream. It's a very good sensation. So that's, in my opinion, there are some people which are really good at making live streams. I don't know, for example, Florin Pop or other people. Instead, I'm really boring, so I really need maybe someone else to maybe laugh a little bit, so we can be together if you want.
Florin Pop is doing it for a very long time already, I guess. So it's different for you.
I don't know.
But it's still scary because there are hundreds of things that could go wrong during a live stream. But
they will do.
But the point is, I think this is the belief that most junior developers have, that we are perfect in some way when we have experience and we don't look up things and we don't make mistakes. But programming, I mean, I'm not sure if it's still valid, but there was some statistics years ago that said a good programmer writes 20 good lines of code per day. I'm not sure if this is still valid, but the idea was behind it that you can write hundreds of lines of code and remove them and so on, but there's only so much that you can do, regardless how experienced you are. The things that we used to do was different. We had just one language, and this would push the HTML code even, and everything was there. But now when my projects look normally like this, I have Docker, React, Node.js, GraphQL, and a bunch of other technologies that you need to run, and this on scale, right? So you have to understand so much more nowadays, right? So you have to look up.
Yeah, it's strange because maybe before it was easier, simpler in a sense. Maybe now it's complicated in other sense. Maybe, but it's like when you do a project, the complexity goes somewhere. So you can change the points. Maybe we have very good looking frameworks. We have the Docker support. It's easier maybe to create a whole process, but we need, for example, to understand way more technologies. Before that, you just had, I don't know, FTP servers, HTML, CSS. You push that, you had a website. Yeah,
it was so much simpler. There was nothing there. But the problems got more complex. The software is in higher demand. Companies want to have more complex solutions there. I mean, just looking at the front end, right? Back then, it was just simple, strict HTML. And nowadays, you can get lost in frameworks and ideas and libraries for frameworks.
Yeah, and now there are frameworks above React. There are React frameworks. I've heard Next.js, for example. So now React is a base for another framework. So we are building frameworks over frameworks. I don't know if this will be a thing or not, but I don't know.
So there are. I mean. There are so many things happening in especially in open source. I mean, if you look back again in time, I can remember we had to go to specific websites where we could download a library for PHP, for example, and you would have to maintain a version. We didn't have package managers and things like that. You really had to take care of everything, and you would just use this code directly in your repository, which wasn't Git back then, by the way. Things were not so easy, but the problems were not easier, let's say like that. You could run everything on one host, and this was
When I discovered NPM, it was a shock. When you discover NPM for the first time, it's shocking because I also came from the Java world, so they had something similar with Maven. But when I discovered NPM, it was really, That's,
I think NPM is the big part of the success story of Node.js. Without NPM, I don't think it would have happened. And then you see that NPM had a huge influence on others in Java and PHP and Python and so on. Everybody was using this concept. So this is how you get the libraries and the projects spread faster and more open source.
And NPM is based, of course, on developers putting packages on that. So it's like GitHub. This is the idea that if you base this idea out if you let developers creating something, in a good way, this is what happened basically.
It's actually crazy how much creation happens. Developers are creators all the time. I'm not talking about even on YouTube, but the software that we are creating constantly in the open source communities, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I know that it took some time to get there because it was way closed back then, and now it's really an open community, and everybody's proud to do open source, right? It's not like everybody was sticking to their logic and their custom code, and this was trade secret. And nowadays, it's the more open you want to be, the better. And big companies are leading by example, right? So this is amazing.
Even Microsoft. And I also had had the honor to have here Eddie Jaude on this interview series, which has been the GitHub star of 2020. So it has been really great for the open source. You have to talk about that. So it has been a really great conversation. And so thank you. Yeah.
This is the thing that with the big companies as well that they are supporting here. The open source community. I mean, I'm so happy that they do, because if you look at Microsoft, which used to be not a very friendly.
We are old, and before Microsoft, it was the evil. Yeah, it was.
Or Facebook, for example. I'm not using Facebook. I still don't like Facebook, but I love Facebook open source because just looking at two things, React and GraphQL, my two most favorite things in programming, right? So this is amazing that those companies are doing it. Or Netflix, for example, how much they have in open source for distributed applications.
For example, Netflix, they opened out in some ways how they did that. For example, I've seen some videos, something about microservices with Netflix. They open up their architecture. It's really amazing.
They have even visual tools to display what happens in their Microsoft architecture. This is amazing if you look at it. I mean, they solve problems at scale you can't even imagine in your projects. So this is so cool that they share this knowledge with all of us. So this is
which are the socials that you are more active on, so we can follow you everywhere?
So I am on Instagram, but I'm not really using it. I started on YouTube, so this is fresh. But Twitter is the only thing that I'm really actively using, and I'm using Twitter now for a bit more of a year, really, and just got into the game, and I really love it, and I love the people that I met there. I mean, it's such a great and awesome community. I was always afraid that it will be toxic and it's people will write things that you don't like and so on. But so far, my experience was amazing, and I'm so grateful that I got to know so many people like you, for example.
Okay. Twitter is a great. For the most part, it's a great dev community. People are really friendly, and that's it. And I think, for example, I really like the combination of Twitter and YouTube because they are so different that they work good together. For example,
it's an interesting combination. We'll see. I mean, it started. I think you started with videos on Twitter before you went into YouTube, right?
I remember.
It was interesting, and this was Simon was doing it, and I was like, crazy! What are they doing? I thought I have to try it as well, and so
but cool. But I'm really happy that you are in the game now. So at least so I also invited you here so we can know each other a little bit better.
Thank you for that.
This has been a really great conversation. Thank you so much, Chris. Would you like to say something to end this video call before we close this? I think we are not that young, but I had here one guy which was 16, something like that. I don't know if you know him, Tommy Tocco. He has a really great. He has a YouTube channel. He's 16. I think he can way better than me in 20 years. But what can he say to?
I think one of the most important things for a young developer or a fresh developer, you don't have to be young, so you can start developing with 60 if you want to. But I think the most important trait that you should have is staying curious. You need to be interested in things you are doing, looking beyond the border of what you know. and from that point onward, you can achieve almost anything, because the information, the knowledge is there. People share it all the time, and I think it's so much easier to get into tech right now, because the barrier is so low. And I think you should just get started with something that you enjoy, because if programming is no fun, for example, for you at all, then look into what things you're trying to solve in programming. Maybe this is the reason, but then again, not everybody will be a programmer in the end, right? So it has to be something that you enjoy, and once you start enjoying it, you will not have a job. You will have a well-paid hobby in the end, and this is what I like to think of it. So yes.
Yeah, I agree with this, and also I can add. Thank you, Chris. Also, can add that this is a so big world that you can also focus on something. I mean, for example, I know a lot of people, maybe they like to focus on just DevOps. You don't have to be a super developer to work on very low level. For example, if you like that nowadays, there are so many opportunities, some different technologies. And I always, for example, you should choose your technology, and then, for example, looking for some companies if you are looking for a job, or you can work by yourself. But there are so many opportunities that,
This is the one issue in the job market that I think many people are trying to look at jobs and how well they are paid, and trying to get into the technology of exactly those jobs. In some markets, it will be always this technology. In other markets, it will be a different one. But I think you're robbing yourself of a good first experience, right? So maybe you should you should start with something that you would enjoy. And once you learn one of the programming languages, then the concepts are similar in so many ways. It won't be so hard to jump to the next technology, and so on. I think I couldn't start doing machine learning just from knowing nothing, but because of knowing other programming languages and getting into Python, I'm now starting to go into machine learning, and it's easier for me because of that. But if I would have started with machine learning and with the math concepts behind it and so on, I would be shocked, and I would have stopped right away, I guess, because it will be so hard to achieve. And this is what people need to understand, that don't go after the money first, go after your passion, and the money will come with time.
I'm totally agree with this. For example, I don't know if, for example, also there are also a lot of musicians and actors that are paid quite well, football players, but you need to be passionate about that. You can't be a football player for money. You need to start with passion, and then you will see the dream is to combine your passion also with money, because you are good at doing that. But to be good at doing that, you need to like that. This is what I think. And of course, I always say that there is nothing wrong. It's just coding for money. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's more about the mindset, what you should think, maybe in the future, the mindset.
I mean, programming is a creative process, right? So it is like writing a book or a poem or a song, things like that. It's creativity. It's not just a robot doing things, but you are imagining things and you're trying to solve a problem. Yeah, so I think you should enjoy it. Otherwise, it will feel miserable within a couple of years. So, and I think it's easy to enjoy it, because whenever people create things, it's for sure more interesting than doing something on a treadmill and continue doing the same thing over and over. So most of the creative jobs are interesting, more interesting, right? So I think yes, staying curious, trying new things, playing with different technologies, and finding the one that makes you happy will get you there the fastest way. And once you have this success moment, or this good feeling that you like it and you understand finally, then jumping to the next and to the next will be so much easier and more fun. I mean, the good thing about this job is, and I don't think many jobs have it in this kind of exposure, is that I'm learning constantly every day new things. It never gets boring. There are things that are maybe tough. Sometimes it's hard work to get there. Some parts are boring, but most of the time It's just solving interesting problems over and over again in different ways, and there is no end to it, and there will never be an end. I will still, if I live to be 80, I will still see things that I didn't understand before, and I will learn them.
For example, I can say this, that maybe we think about, I don't know, people that are 80 now, maybe they don't code that much. So there could be some exception. I would love to have him or her here. But maybe when we will be all 80, maybe we will still be coding, and there will be always also be a new JavaScript framework. Who knows?
No, but I think what will happen is for sure that programming will be even more approachable. I mean, if you look at the no-code movement right now, I think it will go more and more into these directions, that people will be more on the creative side of things, thinking about how it should go, and the rest will be happening for you. I mean, what I'm doing is with my 10-year-old son is I'm trying to teach him programming. I'm using a platform for that, and we're going over simple problems and trying to get him hooked to programming, because I believe that programming is something like, I would say, close to magic if people don't understand how it works. And this is a superpower that you need, because in the future you would rather want to understand why your fridge is ordering milk instead of being completely clueless and depending on technology. So it's better when you are ahead of the game. And I think this is something that is good, that I can teach him, and that he can use it. If he will be a programmer in the future or something else, doesn't really matter. But I would like at least that he has some basic knowledge of what programming is.
And I think it's really hard to predict what will happen in 30 years. If you think, for example, we think about the 90s now, we have done so many other things. And also maybe there could be also an exponential thing. So maybe
exactly
we really don't know.
The exponential growth it's absolutely astonishing to see what happened in the last 20 years, and at the pace what things are happening. I mean, our capacity is not there yet to understand what's going on, but it will be for sure still a very interesting time, what we will see.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really don't know why you don't have 100,000 of subscribers, so please fix that. Subscribe to his channel now, because you are really super natural in front of the camera. You give so much content, so you provide so much value. So let's see that this will be a great year. I'm sure about that.
That will be great.
Okay, you are done. Bye bye, Chris.
Thank you, Francesco. It was great to be here.
Bye bye.